Might have had some drinking involved. I don't know. Good times. So, we're recording? Did that just do that on its own?
It just started on its own.
Huh.
Shall we take this as a sign?
I guess so,
You
yeah.
have to do your awesome intros. You have such good intros.
Yeah, let me try this one. Like, if you've ever been somewhere where you're worried about your personal ability to save your own life and you haven't been able to, make sure you hit the subscribe button below, because I'm here with Bear Independent, who can actually teach you how to use medical gear and save your own life as well as the life of others. So basically, we're chatting today, hanging out. We got to meet up here in Sentinel Butte, North Dakota, where Refuge Medical is putting on a training seminar. And I wanted to take this opportunity to just get on camera for a minute and have a chat and discuss some things. I took the class today. It was a Responder 1 class. Really informative, really educational. And the biggest part about it was building up confidence of actually using the gear that's within the Bear Facts or the Adventurer Kit or all the other awesome stuff you guys have. And I think one of the big takeaways that I had from the class, and I think you can attest to this, but it's without that hands-on real world training, you still don't exactly know what you're doing. It's just really hard to replace that with anything else,
Well, we were talking about that. You can watch a video on how to shoot a handgun 100 times until you go to a course of instruction, a block of instruction, where there's an instructor there that can see how you're positioning your thumbs, how you're gripping the pistol, what your recoil management looks like. You could talk about your sight picture, sight alignment, trigger press, all that. It's not instruction. You might have some really good information, but it's not instruction. And so that's what we're doing out here in North Dakota. Made the, minute 19-hour drive to get out here from Oklahoma.
Just a little drive, yeah.
Just a little. And, just get to meet with cool people, members of the Bear Nation. We get to meet up and hang out and teach people how to not die. And, it's almost, I guess I almost take for granted what I know, because we hear from everybody man, great class. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I'm like, this is a level 1.
Yeah.
This is just intro to what we do. And so the whole reason for this is to destroy people's false paradigms. They think that they know, but you don't actually know until you've done it with your hands over and over and over again, until you get that automaticity, the reps and sets, to build the familiarity to where you can do it without thinking about it. If you can't do it without thinking about it, you don't own the skill. If you can't draw your pistol and make a shot without thinking about it, you don't own the skill. You need more training, right?
Yep.
And then, just like firearms, that training falls off. The knife gets dull. You have to go back and resharpen it. We had this class and every other class we've ever done. There was a doctor in the morning class. We've got a nurse in the afternoon class, combat lifesaver qualified, veterans, EMTs, all of that. And you'd think, why would these people come take a trauma medicine class? They ought to know this stuff. They don't. They don't teach trauma medicine in medical school, by the way. You're a surgeon at the ER, and we've gotten this from surgeons in ERs who took the class. They're like, never used a tourniquet in my life. All that stuff happens out there in the field before they ever get to me, right? Or if you were in the military and now you're not, well, doctrine changes. There's new studies. The TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures change. And so, staying up to date on the most current TTPs and the information is super important too. And just getting those reps in. If you haven't shot your pistol in 8 years, what expectation do you have being able to, make a 1.5 second draw and hit, and you haven't fired the thing in 8 years, right? So it's the same idea.
Well, it's also the more detailed orientation of, how do I stage a tourniquet properly, and having someone else there to walk you through it, tell you what you're doing wrong, and give you that hands-on advice as to what you can do to be a little bit more efficient, That's all stuff that you can find on the internet, but without someone else there watching you to make the mistakes, it's kind of hard to self-analyze that way,
For sure. Well, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You think you have it on right, and you don't. I don't know how many people the first time they put a tourniquet on, they put it on, and they're like, and we teach you how to check your radial pulse, and they're like,
yep.
I have a pulse, I did it right? They're like, no. You're not supposed to have a pulse. You did it wrong. It needs to be tighter. And then their eyes get really wide, and they're like, tighter than that? That hurts? It hurts a lot. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you want it to hurt, or do you want to die? You pick.
And we got to hang out with tourniquets on, all throughout the class. So definitely got to experience that firsthand, And even I was one of the people who the first time I put one on during the class didn't have it tight enough. And that's because, in the past, most of my knowledge was coming from, learning through video or learning through handbook or whatever it was. And I didn't have someone there to be like, no, that's actually still not tight enough. Now I know what level of pain I should be expecting to know that it's correct.
For sure. Well, I tell people it's one turn past bad words.
Yep.
So when you're ready to start saying some bad words, whatever that is for you, if it's, snarfing tiddlywinks or MFer, right, whatever it is, you need to go one turn past that, and that's probably the baseline for how tight it should be. There's actually a study that just came out of China, and so, suspect, right? But I believe it was 153 Chinese conscripts. They did a study on self-care, self-aid with tourniquets and buddy aid with tourniquets, and the efficacy to actually stop the bleed. And they were determining that by the presence of a radial pulse, a pulse in your wrist out here. And what they found was that in self-aid, 72% of the 153 people in the test actually got to the point. So under 3/4 actually got it tight enough when putting it on their self. It was 93% when somebody else did it to you. And the reason for that is because I don't care if you don't like it when I'm putting the tourniquet on you.
Right.
I'm going to go an extra turn or two, even if you're screaming, because I want to make sure it's on there tight. Whereas if you're doing it to yourself, oftentimes you reach this internal pain threshold that you have, and you're like, it's got to be good enough. It's not. You're still bleeding. You still have a pulse. You're still dying. And so, and all that just comes back to like reps and sets, as our brother Saw says, which we're out here because we were training with Rex and Saw. And then we decided to go ahead and add some classes since we were all going to be out here. And Saw, excellent block of instruction with the armed retainer class. And he talks a lot about reps and sets. And that's exactly what it is. So that, you don't want to have to think about it when you need to do it. You need to just be able to make it happen. Yeah. And that doesn't come from watching YouTube videos. Says the guy who makes videos on YouTube, right? Like, that's not it.
And it's just true, And so I guess one question I got for you, which you might be able to help me out with, is based on the class, at least, being like the entry-level responder 1 versus 2 or 3, and then based on the March's algorithm, right? Would you say that if there was any singular piece of gear of medical equipment that you would say is like top priority, it would be a tourniquet?
100%.
Yeah.
A plan to improvise is a plan to fail. And you see people all the time, they say, I can make a tourniquet, right? Sure, you sure can. I can make a flathead screwdriver. I'd much rather just have one.
Yeah.
And if I don't make the flathead screwdriver quick enough, I don't die. If I don't make the tourniquet quick enough, I die. Now, it used to be back in the day, even at the beginning of GWOT, Global War on Terror, I've got one in my pocket. Right here. This is a triangle bandage, and I know it's dark out here. We're sitting in the shade because the sun is brutal today.
It's pretty hot.
But this is a triangle bandage, or a cravat, right? And so guys were issued 2 cravats. That's what they were issued. And then if you had to make a tourniquet, let's say you tie a knot in this, you loop it around the injury, tie a knot in it, and then find a stick, and then tie another knot. Well, hey, Magic, find me a stick out here.
Yeah. North Dakota, not going to work out too well.
You know where else doesn't work out so well? Iraq, Afghanistan, not very sticky, right? And so, can you make a tourniquet with this? Absolutely. Do you have a stick? Now, instead of going and trying to hunt down a stick for this, one could reach into his other pocket over here and pull out a Cat Gen 7 that comes with a stick on it, right? So there's a reason that these exist. So you want the number one piece of gear for trauma medicine is the CAT tourniquet, and that's because statistically 9 out of 10 preventable deaths in the United States, like this person didn't have to die. That's what preventable deaths mean. 9 out of 10 preventable deaths come from uncontrolled bleeding in the US. It's not hypothermia. It's not bad shrimp at the buffet. It's uncontrolled bleeding is what kills 9 out of 10 people, preventable deaths in the United States of America.
And it's more of an issue than even choking, right?
Oh,
or
for sure.
Hazards.
It's the number one. It's 9 out of 10. We just don't think about it that way because we go, oh, that person got into a horrific car wreck and died. That's not the precluded answer. That doesn't have to be that way. You can get in a horrific car wreck, apply a tourniquet, and not die. right?
Yeah.
And we've done that with 43 lives saved with Refuge Medical. More than half of them have been motor vehicle accidents. 2 of which were using the trainer tourniquet that you got today in class.
Yeah.
That people had come to class, still had the kit in their car, and then they were witness to an accident and they were able to render aid and save somebody's life. And then so after a tourniquet, the next thing that you should get, because uncontrolled bleeding accounts for roughly 90% of the March algorithm as well, 9 out of 10 preventable deaths, you should get some type of wound packing gauze, whether that's compressed gauze or a hemostatic agent like Cheetah Sand or Combat Gauze or Quick Clot Rolled Gauze, whatever, and a pressure bandage. And that covers 9 out of 10 preventable deaths in the United States of America. And that's not preventable deaths for a law enforcement officer or a Marine Raider, or no, for people. 9 out of 10 people, soccer moms, school principals, bus drivers, accountants, 9 out of 10 people, uncontrolled bleeding. So,
well, and talked about it in class quite a bit, but obviously refugemedical.com has a lot of great first aid kits and a lot of great equipment that you can get.
I don't know, the guy that owns that, I heard, is kind of a jerk. Talks a bunch of trash on the internet.
Questionable, affiliations,
Plus, I also heard you can totally buy cheap Chinese crap and it's going to work just as good. And you should totally find out that it's garbage when your wife is bleeding out on the pavement. That's a great place to have saved $10 on a medical product. So,
and that's when you want to find that out, actually.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, you just get one life. Why not spill it out all over the pavement because you saved $10?
That's fair assumption, but one thing I will say is that in the class, because the training is so much more important than the actual equipment, that they even mentioned multiple times, like we don't care if you guys buy it from us, we don't care where you get it, have these supplies, but also know how to use them.
Exactly.
And honestly, the way I felt after taking the class is like, I would almost rather have taken this class than, buying these first aid kits, because at least then the knowledge I would have would allow me to adapt better than just having the stuff and literally being completely useless with it,
Well, it's a huge prepper fantasy. Possession does not equate to proficiency.
Right.
I can go buy a Barrett 50 cal, right, and put the Hubble telescope on top of it. Doesn't mean I can shoot a mile. The gun might be capable of shooting a mile, but it doesn't mean I can shoot a mile. You can set up your plate carrier the exact same way. You see it all the time on YouTube, how a Navy SEAL clears a room, right? Like, you set up all your gear, and there's a whole subgenre of people who want to make their rifles period perfect to build the perfect Mark 12 special purpose rifle or whatever, right?
Right, yep.
Who cares? You're not them. You don't. What makes a Green Beret is the training, not the equipment.
Yep.
So possession does not equate to proficiency, and people like to, especially in the prepper community, but Westerners in general, because we're all capitalists, and I'm yay capitalism, bro. I own 4 companies, right? But we want to buy our way out of problems. If you think about that in terms of preparedness, that's super counterintuitive, because what happens when there's nothing else to buy, or there's no more money, or you, because of your beliefs, are not allowed to buy anymore? You need the skills to be able to solve problems, not just buy a bunch of crap from Bezos and throw it in your spare closet.
Yep. And, speaking of possession, it's funny. So today I showed up with my EDC, right? And I've been carrying a SWAT T tourniquet around. Because it can be a compression bandage, it can be used as a tourniquet. But after taking the class, one of the reasons I carry this is because it's low profile, it's slim, it's lightweight, easy to carry, right? But after this class, I'm carrying a Cat 7 now.
Yep.
It just kind of showed me that this is going to do a lot more for me, especially if I need a tourniquet. This is going to be a lot more difficult to use, a lot more difficult to deploy, and at the end of the day, if you have to pick one, this one's more likely to save my own life. That's just what I learned today, So even I'm willing to adapt. Yeah, I've been carrying this for a little over a year now. Cat 7, I'll probably end up carrying both for other reasons. Found out that these are even good for kids who have small arms.
So the SWAT T has a ton of applications. It's great for a lot of things. You can make pressure bandages with it. You can make slings with it. It's great for small diameter limbs. It can work as a tourniquet, but it's not Committee on TCCC recommended for self-aid because it's not 1.5 inches wide and it's very difficult to apply with one hand.
Yep.
Versus the Cat Gen 7, which is Committee on TCCC recommended because it's at least 1.5 inches wide and it can easily be applied with one hand. And when you're in a situation where you got to put a tourniquet on, you don't want to be messing around. You want to get it on now because, you know, seconds can be the difference between life and death. But,
Yep.
I mean, I have, here, picture says 1,000 words, right?
Right, that's what they say anyway.
I'm in my camis, bro, my cool guy pants. And in my cool guy pants, this is a rolled up SWAT tee, right? Because I can do a lot of stuff with this. It's great for kids, great for pressure bandages, sling, everything I just talked about. I still have one on me, but I also have 2 cats on me. So
It's just part of the deal, you know.
it's just part of the
But
deal.
without this training, I would have never made the conscious decision because of the, I guess you say, the bulkiness of this versus this. I thought I was killing 2 birds with 1 stone by carrying one of these and having something's better than nothing, right? But after this training course, I'm like, this is still nothing, especially if the wound I'm dealing with is on myself. Because
Yeah.
trying to, you know, use this as a tourniquet with like my forehead or something, like it's just,
Well, and
there's no contest.
And the other thing too is, yeah, tourniquets hurt. The one that hurts the most is the SWAT tee because it's not 1.5 inches wide. And so you're getting all that constriction in a much smaller area. It hurts. Like I put tourniquets on all the time. It's part of one of my jobs, right?
Yeah.
I don't like having that thing on. I can and do literally run around with a cat on my leg for an hour or 2 doing tactical drills.
Yep.
It's obnoxious. I don't like it, but I don't want to scream. That SWAT, I put that on, and I'm like, when the hell do I get to take this thing off?
Yeah, no, they're not comfortable. And I guess, you know, another good takeaway I had today, and, you know, I'm glad we get to have this chat because it's just nice to get out here and just let everybody know our thoughts, I guess, you know. But a big takeaway that your instructor at Twitch, right?
Yep.
Super solid guy, really good instruction. I was really impressed. But he said something that's going to stick with me and something a lot of you might not think about very often, but we don't render aid while there's still violence or something along those lines, right?
Yep.
And it's something we probably don't really consider very often because maybe we're not in like the line of duty or something like that. But basically, first aid's very important, but the most important thing is still making sure you're safe before you begin to render aid.
Yep.
And if you're in a dangerous environment, maybe in the middle of an active shooter or something along those lines, you can't just start tourniqueting somebody if there's a gunman right around the corner.
Or even a car wreck.
Yep.
If we stay here in the middle of the road, there's a greater than 0 statistical probability that violence is going to happen here.
Yep.
How do I know that? It just happened. That's why I'm rendering aid, right? So get the casualty off the X. I don't want to render aid in the middle of the road. We got to get off the side of the road at a minimum, create space in between us and where the violence happened. And this is, so TCCC is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, right? And it was the 75th Ranger Regiment became the test bed for this during the Global War on Terror. And then the NAEMT, American College of Surgeons, got together and put together this protocol called Stop the Bleed. But it's derived from TCCC principles. And in TCCC, there's 3 phases, and I'll go through them super quick. The first is called Care Under Fire. This means bad guys are trying to kill us right now. What do we do in care under fire, right? And this could be an active shooter situation. This could be a home break-in. This could be motor vehicle accident. There's lots of things this could be. But in this moment where the violence just happened, the only thing we do during the care under fire phase is, if we can, if I'm conscious and able, I'm going to self-aid, apply a tourniquet. That's it, care under fire, because this is a hot zone. And this is super important for civilians to understand. EMS does not go into hot zones.
Right.
They will not go in until law enforcement escorts them into a warm zone. So care under fire is a hot zone. Then we go to what's called tactical field care, which is a warm zone. This means the violence has stopped, but there's the potential for it to begin again. Could be another car wreck right here because there's 2 vehicles in the road that are disabled, right? We made the bad guys stop shooting at us, but they might start shooting again. We don't know. It's a warm zone. So there's not active violence, but it could occur again. During the tactical field care phase, now the IFACs and the stomp bags start coming out, where we're going to pack wounds, we're going to check for airways, we're going to assess for TBI and head injuries. We're going to start calling in our CASEVAC and our medevac, and for civilians, this is 911. For the military, this is a 9 line. You're basically going to get on the horn and say, hey, we've been hit, I need help. Right? And then the third phase is CASEVAC or medevac. The difference between those two things being a CASEVAC is a casualty evacuation, which is moving the person who is injured, the casualty, from where the bad stuff happened to a higher level of care without a medical professional. So if I got injured and you threw me into your truck and we start driving towards the nearest hospital, that's a CASEVAC. A medevac is the same thing, move the casualty off the X from where the bad stuff happened to a higher level of care with qualified medical professionals, whether this is flight surgeons or paramedics and EMTs inside of an ambulance, whatever it might be. So we prefer medevac to CASEVAC because we're going to continue providing aid to that casualty during the transportation phase. But CASEVAC's better than nothing because we got to get you to the hospital.
Yep.
So, but yeah.
And that's what a lot of this, first responder, first aid, implementation is about buying time.
That's
until
exactly
you get
right.
to the final phase of actual medical care.
That's exactly right.
So
we don't save people's lives. We buy time for the qualified medical professionals to intervene and for the Father to save people's lives. We are, and that's the thing too. The reason these courses are called Responder 1, Responder 2, Responder 3 is you are the first responder.
Yep.
You're the person standing there that after these classes, you have no excuse. You are capable and qualified and equipped to be able to intervene right now to buy that person time so we can get them to a higher level of care. And Prepper's always like, well, what happens when the hospitals are down? Don't do dumb stuff that requires you to need hospitals, right? If your policy for SHTF is to get into and win as many gunfights as possible, probably a bad idea.
Yeah, bad way to go.
Yeah. And also get more training. Get more and more and more training. I'm a prepper. I have been since way before I ever had a YouTube channel. I can set up a field hospital with the stuff that I have before I started this company. So, and that's not a prepper flex. It's just the truth.
It felt like a little bit of a
Did it?
flex,
I didn't mean to flex on you, bro. But it's just there's always, like, you constantly improve your position, right? Like, yeah, you dug a good fighting position, cool, keep going, or dig another one. Right? Like you got 6 months worth of food put up, awesome, rejoice in that. Now get 9 months of food put up.
Right.
Like there's always higher levels to this.
Well, and honestly, what it comes down to is I equate it to the same thing we're doing as being preppers. We're buying time because we're never trying to just survive out of our pantry for the end of time. We're not trying to just do that for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
We're buying time so that we can acclimate to our new environment and reestablish some level of structure, And that's kind of what first aid is. You're buying time so that you can bring the person who needs the aid to a structured environment where they're going to have their life saved.
Exactly.
So it goes hand in hand for obvious reasons. But I wanted to have this chat. I wanted to kind of just throw some stuff out there, and then also thank you for the training today, and just let you know that it was very effective, very educational, and I suggest everybody go out and get medical training. If you can get it from Refuge Medical, you should definitely try. Your guys' classes are on your website, refugemedical.com.
Yep, and if you can't get it from us, get it from somebody else.
Yep.
Like you have to train. I would prefer it if you came and trained with us because I'm a businessman, but I also would prefer it if you just got trained. If you can't come to us, fine. Mazel tov, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Go train with somebody. It's more important that you get trained by somebody than you come train with us.
Yeah, get training, and I've said that many, many times related to many other subjects too, but especially with first aid, my level of confidence is so much higher now just from this one class, just to feel like I could actually implement something like a tourniquet correctly, So make sure you guys do that. Should I use my code? I could use my code.
Yeah, dude,
right?
use your code.
Yeah, let's do it. If you guys buy stuff from refugemedical.com, use the code MAGIC. It gets you 10% off. And then since you're here, we can actually tell everybody on the camera. Do you pay me to tell people about that?
No, I don't.
He doesn't pay me
I didn't
for that.
pay you to come out here either.
So
I don't pay me to talk about Refuge on camera.
And you could too, technically, marketing expenses.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I could. I don't draw a salary from Refuge. We do this because we want to save people's lives. And I want to be in a position to pay our people within the organization a living wage, even amidst all this nonsense and chaos that's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't draw a salary from Refuge. And I don't pay you to talk nice about us either.
It's more about just being all part of the same community and trying to get as many people prepared as we can. So, and the more of you guys that are prepared out there, the more of you that learn these life-saving techniques, the more people are going to survive that we actually want to have around if things go bad because that means there's less problems for me, there's less problems for Bear, and all of you as well. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks for the chat, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, bro.
Definitely. And I'll see you guys next time. That's going to be it for Magic Prepper. If I don't do that, they get mad at me.
This?
Yeah, you have to do that.
I was unaware.
Now you know.
I'm going to start doing that.
Now you got a thing.
Do I have your permission? I don't want to steal your thing.
It's trademarked, but you can do it anyway.
All right, I'll let them know I got it from you.
Okay. Here. All right, can you hear us? You know, that's always the test.
Check.
You used to play music, right?
I did used to play music. There's no drums here though.
Yeah.
So, this should be like the outtake you put at the end of the video, where Bear and Magic do a sound check on the microphone that maybe works ?
And do every rock band ever is check, mic check, check.
Check.
Yeah.
Check.
It never stops.
Check 1 2. Check 3 4. Check 1 2.
I think we got the outtake.